the modern world, we often take for granted the creative freedom we have. Nothing is off limits. There are no boundaries for the modern artist. All the walls of governmental, social, and religious constraints have been knocked down, and we stand in an open plain of artistic freedom. This state of vast opportunity did not always exist, and for thousands of years the subject matter of authors and artists alike was dominated by religion, politics, and society. Some of the first writers to break the norms of storytelling in traditional literature were the Modernists, who found themselves in a disillusioned world and abandoned traditional writing styles and subject matter. The visual arts also underwent a similar transformation as the Impressionists rejected the constraints and subject matter of realistic art and instead portrayed everyday life as it was actually seen. Impressionism can be seen as a visual equivalent to literary modernism, as both use analogous techniques to capture the essence of the moment as it is actually experienced. Let us go back and begin with the origins of literary modernism. Modernism is much more than a defined literary movement. As Gabriel Joseph Avicii explains in his book, Whatever Happened to Modernism, by dating modernism in a specific period, we turn it into a style like Mannerism or Impressionism and into a period of art history like the Augustan or the Victorian age, and therefore as something that can be clearly defined and is safely behind us. Instead, Joseph Avicii argues, modernism is something that will, from now on, always be with us. Instead of a literary movement, modernism is, as Joseph Avicii puts it, a response by artists to the disenchantment of the world. This disenchantment began with the Protestant Reformation, as artists found themselves in a world drained of the numinous.
Because you have destroyed the truth of God, let God destroy you in these flames.
Without a standard religious authority, there was a lack of divine inspiration and direction, and many artists and authors felt an overwhelming sense of freedom. This lack of enchantment served as an inspiration for modernist writers as they rejected the traditional subject matter and style of past literature. Instead, the modernists delved into the subjective, experimented with new literary styles and narration, and attempted to capture a living moment on the page. While traditional literature presents a linear narrative focused on plot, modernist literature is a trapped moment, a living work. As Joseph Avicii puts it, the reader engages in a living thing, not merely a story. Modernism continued to progress throughout the 19th century and reached its height in the 1920s and 30s with Virginia Woolf's novel To the Lighthouse and James Joyce's use of stream of consciousness in Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake. Similar to modernism, Impressionism diverged from artistic tradition. The term Impressionism is linked to the 1874 Paris exhibition of the Société Anonyme. This exhibition essentially rebelled against the constraints of the government-sponsored salon exhibitions by displaying paintings that were seen as unfit for French society. While the government-sponsored salon exhibitions displayed only approved traditional paintings, according to the article Impressionism Comes to America, the exhibition held by the early Impressionists featured artwork that focused on immediate surroundings, the transitory aspects of these surroundings, and the rejection of allegory, post-medieval religion, and mythology. One major leader in this exhibition was Claude Monet, who would go on to be a leader in Impressionism art and have many disciples. The term Impressionist was given by a critic of the Société Anonyme exhibition, describing the unfinished look and careless execution of the paintings. Although these artists did not view their work in this way, the name stuck. In the following 10 years, 7 more Impressionist exhibitions were held, and growing characteristics of Impressionist paintings included anchoring the viewer in a fleeting moment and capturing what one actually sees, as opposed to what one is supposed to see. While Impressionism is clearly an artistic movement originating in the late 19th century, and Modernism can be more accurately defined as a reaction to a disenchanted world, Impressionism can be seen as a visual version of literary modernism. Just as Impressionism strives to capture a fleeting moment on the canvas, Modernism sets out to trap a living image on the page. Both Modernism and Impressionism break with past artistic traditions and anchor the viewer in the present. In Whatever Happened to Modernism, Joseph Bavici states that a modernist work lives on its own, like an image one's trying to trap. While the modernist uses stream of consciousness or interior dialogue to trap the image of perceived reality on the page, the Impressionist uses a variety of techniques to anchor the viewer in the moment, as stated in the article, Impressionism Comes to America. For these Impressionists, the motivating message was paint fast and grab the impression before it disappears.
Close your eyes. Open them. What do you see?
Bunch of flowers, I think.
Close your eyes. Open.
Purple flowers, the yellow flowers.
No, close them. Keep them closed. What's really there?
Balls of colour. Yellow, purple, green.
That was La Grenouillère. I looked nature in the eyes and I saw her clearly as she was on that day in that place for the very first time.
In his painting Woman with a Parasol, Claude Monet uses impressionist techniques such as pure colors, broken brushstrokes, and asymmetrical balance to anchor the viewer in the moment. These techniques, analogous to the modernist techniques of stream of consciousness and interior dialogue, give the clouds, the grass, and the woman's dress a sense of movement. The child stands off to the left in the background, giving the image a feeling of imbalance, and that this is not a staged image, but rather a snapshot of reality. This is how the painter sees the image, not what we are expecting or supposed to see. Through the combination of these techniques, it's as if we are standing in front of Monet's family, and we can almost feel the wind on our back. Impressionists and Modernists both depict the world as it is seen in the present. The focus is not on the plot or the subject, but rather on the image itself. In this way, both Modernism and Impressionism break drastically from traditional artistic values. In James Joyce's masterpiece, Ulysses, an image of an approaching dog is described. A point, live dog, grew into sight, running across the sweep of sand. At first, the dog is simply described as a point. That is all that can be seen. This observation is followed by the conclusion that the point is in fact a live dog running. The focus is on what is actually seen and the movement rather than the actual physical characteristic of the dog's breed. Similarly, Impressionist paintings focus on what the eye actually sees. They strive to capture movement and change in a still image, as opposed to an accurate image of what an object or scene actually is. Throughout the past few centuries, modernists have been their own oracles and portrayed subjective reality through literature. Similarly, Impressionists have worked to trap movement, light, and reality in a still image. While working through different mediums, modernist literature and Impressionist painting both fulfill the same task of capturing an image, one on the page, one on the canvas.